the Senate's approval of John Brennan to be CIA director, after contentious debate on the use of armed drones against terrorism suspects, puts in place a third key member of President Barack Obama's second-term national security team. Brennan won Senate confirmation on Thursday after the administration bowed to demands from Republicans blocking the nomination and stated explicitly there are limits on the president's power to use drones against U.S. terror suspects on American soil. Last week Chuck Hagel won Senate confirmation to be Defense Secretary, joining Secretary of State John Kerry in Obama's revamped national security lineup. The Brennan vote was 63-34 and came just hours after Republican Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky, a possible 2016 presidential candidate, used an old-style filibuster of the nomination to extract an answer from the administration on the drone question. Brennan won some GOP support. 13 Republicans voted with 49 Democrats and 1 independent to give Brennan, who has been Obama's top counterterrorism advisor, the top job at the nation's spy agency. He will replace Michael Morrell, the CIA's deputy director who has been acting director since David Petraeus resigned in November after acknowledging an affair with his biographer. The confirmation vote came moments after Democrats prevailed in a vote ending the filibuster, 81-16. In a series of fast-moving events, by Senate standards, Attorney General Eric Holder sent a one-paragraph letter to Paul, who had held the floor for nearly 13 hours on Wednesday and into Thursday. It has come to my attention that you have now asked an additional question. Grave accent. Does the president have the authority to use a weaponized drone to kill an American not engaged in combat on American soil? Holder wrote Paul. The answer to that question is no. That cleared the way. We worked very hard on a constitutional question to get an answer from the president, Paul said after voting against Brennan. It may have been a little harder than we wish it had been, but in the end I think it was a good healthy debate for the country to finally get an answer that the Fifth Amendment applies to all Americans. However, Paul's stand on the Brennan nomination and insistence that the Obama administration explain its controversial drone program exposed a deep split among Senate Republicans, putting leader Mitch McConnell, Libertarians and Tea Partiers against military hawks such as John McCain of Arizona and Lindsey Graham of South Carolina. The government's drone program and its use in the fight against terrorists were at the heart of the dispute. Though Paul held the Senate floor for the late-night filibuster, about a dozen of his colleagues who share his views came, too, to take turns speaking for him and trading questions. McConnell, a fellow Kentuckian who faces re-election next year, congratulated him for his tenacity and for his conviction. McConnell said in Senate remarks on Thursday, the United States military no more has the right to kill a U.S. citizen on U.S. soil who is not a combatant with an armed, unmanned aerial vehicle than it does with an M16. Paul's filibuster echoed recent congressional debates about the government's authority in the anti-terror war and whether the United States can hold American terror suspects indefinitely and without charge. The disputes have created unusual coalitions as libertarians and liberals have sided against defense hawks. The latest GOP split also underscored the current rift within the rank and file over budget cuts, with some Tea Partiers willing to reduce defense dollars to preserve tax cuts but longtime guardians of military spending fighting back. During his talkathon, Paul had suggested the possibility that the government would have used Hellfire missiles against anti-war activist Jane Fonda or an American sitting at a cafe. During the height of the Vietnam War, Fonda traveled to North Vietnam and was widely criticized by some in the U.S. for her appearances there. McCain derided the notion of an attack against the actress and argued that Paul was unnecessarily making Americans fear that their government poses a danger. To somehow allege or infer that the President of the United States is going to kill somebody like Jane Fonda or somebody who disagrees with the policies is a stretch of imagination which is, frankly, ridiculous, McCain said. McCain found himself in the odd position of defending Fonda's constitutional rights over her July 1972 trip to Hanoi that earned her the derogatory nickname Hanoi Jane.